Hello, welcome to this episode of a series of videos designed to give you a bit of an insight, some helpful hints and tips into the Ultra Challenge series by Action Challenge. As ever, I'm joined by experienced walker, Jim Smith, who's taken part in 12, 13, 14, 15 of our ultras. We've got Matt Buck, who's an experienced running coach, who's taken part in some of the toughest ultras around the world. And we've got event director and director of Action Challenge, Julian Risley. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about routes and navigation. People who've been sort of taking part in this, who have signed up for this, should they be concerned about having to learn how to read a map and make their way around the 100-kilometre course themselves, or is it fairly well signposted?
It's fantastically signposted. This is something we've done right from the outset on these events, is to hopefully sign them like no other events, and you'll come across literally thousands of kind of pink arrows which are directional, so there's little need to read a map. But of course, we supply maps as backups. Signs do go missing. Unfortunately, local kids rip them down every now and again, not that often. We have teams of people out there supporting the sign. But hey, we give a map out these days on the app, actually. So we've got a mobile phone app, two forms of maps on there. There's a kind of PDF type thing, and there's the Google map. So you can see a little blue dot where you're supposed to be relative to the course, where there's a good phone signal. So we have the other maps as a backup. So.
Matt, Julian reckons it's the best signage around. What's your thought as someone who's taken part in the event?
Yeah.
Have you ever got lost?
No. No, seriously, they are. I've done a lot of events around the world, and these are by far the best signed events I've ever done. You go to sleep after running one of these ultras, dreaming of these pink arrows, and you can see them everywhere. But all I would say is, they are amazingly signposted, but just pay attention and keep looking out for them. And it's very easy just to follow the person in front, but make sure you're tuned in to looking at those arrows yourself.
And us as a runner, and we all know that running, you've got a lot less time to look around and make decisions, so it's got to be key that it's all signposted. Jim, is it something you can train for, navigation?
There's obviously, for general walking or mounting skills, there are navigation courses and lots of navigational advice. I've not found I've had to use any of my kind of navigation experience when it comes to the action events. It's dealing with just following those signs, following the arrows all the way along. As you mentioned, following or blindly following the people in front, particularly as the sun goes down, night draws in, it is very tempting. You get drawn into conversations with people. You look up and if you suddenly start thinking you've not seen an arrow for a while, it's worth checking around you. The arrows will be placed regularly. They should be in sight all the time. If you find you've gone off, the best bit of advice I can give is turn around and retrace your steps. Right. Don't start trying to be clever and trying to read a map and thinking, well, if I cut across this field, we can catch up with the route, or second guessing yourself. I guarantee it's going to be easier and less risk adverse just to turn back on yourself, retrace your steps until you find another group. Or
as painful as that sounds, going backwards on 100k, you don't want to add any more to it.
Mentally,
it's even worse if you cut across a field with a bullet.
And then you can find yourself in real trouble, and you're going to be further away from the path where people or the officials or the organisers may not be looking.
Now, the worst case scenario, if someone does manage to get lost, it's not actually the end of the world, because you have a control room that are on board, switched on the whole way through the event.
Yeah, absolutely. So mobile phone, ring the control room, text it even. We give out instructions before the event and all this, and they got a lot of kind of computer screens or whatever, and they'll guide you back. So more or less impossible to get lost on one of our events. And the weather has effect again. So if it's a bit misty, the rain's coming down, of course, more attention to the arrows. There's glow sticks up at night as well, so you can see them at night. So.
Yeah, and if you are interested in learning about the night walking and how that works, there is a video just for that, so please go and check that out after this. We mentioned it earlier about sort of hazards. You touched on it there. How do you sign for that, and how do you sort of make? I know I mentioned it as event host. Yeah. I mentioned it in the briefing before they go, but it's something that you're very keen to make sure you get.
Yeah, clearly we brief it as best possible as people leave the start and out of major rest stops, but we also put hazard signs up, so often they're in the form of a kind of pink square with a big black dot, sometimes an exclamation mark. Generally, if you see one of these, there's something you need to look out.
Switch on, get your head up and have a look.
Around,
yeah,
just be sensible. Roads are probably the biggest hazards on these. Roads crossing, as Jim said, don't just follow the person in front out into the road. The car might not be there when they went across, but when you go across, who knows? So Roads, like anything, like cycling as well, are probably the biggest hazards. Yeah.
And Matt, people who are walking this event, not necessarily they're after a good time, but not necessarily as much as the runners are focused on the time, it would seem. As a runner, are you ever tempted to try and cut corners and take advantage of some open fields that you may think, oh, I need to go over there? Is that something that goes through your mind?
No, never. If you do that, then you're not doing yourself any favours, are you? And you don't deserve a medal at the end of it. No, don't cheat. Never cheat.
And I guess it's the reason the route takes you one way is because there's a reason for that. There's something to necessarily avoid. My final point really is to mention something, Jim, that it's something you're involved with as a trek master. These, as I call them, Jedis of the walking world. They especially on the nighttime routes, but also during the day, we have trek masters leave with each walk that sort of heads off. And I guess from someone who's taken part in the first event, it's reassuring to know that someone who's experienced and knows that is doing it is there. But what's your main role as a trek master, would you say?
So it's variety, but I think it gives that reassurance of people being around, so having the experience either of the walks, having the experience of just walking in general. You know, quite often I have several maps with me, I know how to get out of trouble, and that experience and that can be passed on to the people. We'll talk about it more when we look at the night walking especially, is when it really comes to the fore. And it's just being there en route. You know, if you're sticking to the route, sooner or later you'll come across a trek master at some point. And even if it's just a smiley face and a bit of a chat, or we can walk with you all the way through to the end. You know, that's kind of what we're there for, and what our goals are for our own selves, is to help people get there.
Well, hopefully this video is giving you a bit of an insight into what happens on these ultra challenges. If it's interested you, go and check out our 6 other videos talking about subjects which will help you as well. Hopefully we'll see you on the start line of one of our ultras, if not all of them. And PYF, which means push yourself further this year. If you haven't booked yet, go and book yourself onto an ultra. Guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all very soon.